Hey lady, I know that as a business owner and as a leader, you want to make life better for the people you love and for those who need your help. But here's the thing. Business is a spiritual game. Leadership is a spiritual game. Empowerment is an inside job. And empires, well, they get built by careful design. And the problem is neither school nor family or even good old intuition teach you how to win the game. So twice a month or more on this podcast, we're teaching you how to become the architect of your business and how to develop that mindset that's necessary for you to execute on your dreams. Because ladies, mastery and mindset are the jet fuel you need to ignite your own on-fire empire. Let's go. Hey, welcome to another episode of the On Fire Empire. Today is one of those special days where we take some questions that have been submitted, and from time to time on the Empire, I will put my lawyer hat on and take a few legal questions. And so Jose informs me that we have one that's come in, and he's going to play it for me. I haven't heard the question yet. I just do this off the cuff, if you will.
It's a secret.
It's a secret.
It's a surprise.
Who knows what they're going to ask me. But our hope is that, if there's a question out there that someone has, it's more likely than not that others listening have had the same question, because there's not a lot of what we call novel ideas, true novel ideas out there in the world. And so hopefully this will help some of you. No, I know it'll help some of you, but this is going to be fun. I always enjoy these surprise questions. So
I'm always curious how you're going to answer them. Honestly,
yeah.
So.
All right. So lawyer hats on. All right. So what you got for me, Jose?
Hi, Kelly. I have a friend who is planning to file paperwork to divorce her husband, but she's concerned about bringing up the topic with him. This has been something that's been going on for some time. She's got a teenage son, and what she's concerned about is when she gives the paperwork for separation leading to divorce to her husband, that he'll react negatively and potentially violently, especially when she has a kid at home.
Okay. Super common, unfortunately, situation. I don't know if you're still living in the same household as your husband. I'm going to presume maybe you are, and I'll answer whether you are or whether you aren't, because that's common. But so when you've got a teenager or any child and you're living in the home and you're afraid that there's going to be a violent response, first of all, before you bring up the topic or serve the papers on the other side, what I would strongly recommend that you do is go to a therapist. And if you've been in marriage counseling with your husband with the same therapist repeatedly, I would say maybe go to a new therapist because of conflicts of interest and things of that nature. But at any rate, get some counseling advice from a licensed marriage and family therapist on, one, how to handle it in talking to your son about it, who is a teenager. One of the mistakes that we see clients make pretty frequently is when you've got a child that is a teenager, don't be fooled by them acting like adults, because you think that they can understand more, that it's not like a 5-year-old. They can take explanations, more detailed explanations, and process them a little bit better than a 5-year-old. But here's the thing, and they'll ask you questions. Sometimes they'll press you for information as well. They're still children, and no matter what, they will feel put in the middle. So this is a very delicate situation. I recommend that if you can, you go to a licensed marriage and family therapist, tell them in confidence what is happening, your fears and your concerns, and get some advice on what to say to your son, how to say it, and also maybe some advice on how to break the news to your husband. Now, if you're in the same home and you think he's going to have a violent reaction, that tells me that there's been violence in the past, there's been threats in the past, and girlfriend, listen, don't be unwise, don't be foolish, don't give him the benefit of the doubt, okay? Because your first duty as a parent is to keep that child safe and to keep your child's mother safe, okay? So if he's in the home and there's been violence in the past, it doesn't even matter if there hasn't been violence in the past. For whatever reason you think he's going to be violent, that means you need to get your son and yourself to a place of safety before that news and that message is sent over. Okay, first and foremost, look up the local domestic violence prevention agency that's in your community. We have one that works hand in hand with our district attorney's office, and we work closely with because they are going to be able to help you form a safety plan to get out and stabilize things before that information goes to the other side. Also, if you think he's going to be violent, when you get to yourself to a place of safety, whether it's staying with your mom, a girlfriend, a coworker, a friend, or you can rent a place for, a short period of time, whatever it is, hopefully you have the ability to do that. Then you allow the attorney to serve the paper. So if you've got an attorney who you're filing for divorce, I'm going to presume you're not doing it yourself in this instance, allow the attorney's office to make the first contact. I will tell you that the way we handle those things, it's always with dignity, respect, but big boundaries. And so when we serve somebody in those circumstances, we also reach out to them to let them know, look, we can do this the hard way or the easy way. Our client really doesn't want a big to-do. We want to just do this civilly and respectfully. And we invite them into a conversation and more of a relational discussion with us as your attorneys. And so that's what I would recommend that you have, whatever attorney you have working for you, extend. Now, if there's violence and there's poor behavior, of course, you want somebody who has got a real strong backbone and can make that quite clear to the other side that we won't be tolerating threats and poor behavior. Also, if you expect violence, don't tolerate anything from it in the reaction on this. And it will probably be time, if you start getting threats, to consider a restraining order. Okay, and a lot of people are afraid of that. Restraining orders don't have to be forever, but again, remember your duty as a mother to protect your child and also to protect yourself. The other piece is, if you don't have an attorney and you can't afford one, you can typically have the sheriff in your county serve the papers on the other side. So that's another option. And having a sheriff do that, now you got the law serving. And so there's obviously in the moment, most people don't freak out on law enforcement. They're on their best behavior, but you want law enforcement to keep in contact with you and let you know, so you know when they're going out to serve, so you can keep yourself safe. Okay. The third option is to hire a private attorney service or a process server. That's what law firms use as well. We don't physically, the lawyers don't go out in the field and serve the papers. They have to be personally served on the person. And so a licensed process server, don't get a friend, a buddy. You can't serve the papers, by the way, in the state of California, which is where we are, and in most states. Parties to a lawsuit themselves cannot serve papers. You have to have somebody else who's over the age of 18, and preferably a licensed process server, especially here. So send the process server out. They're usually going to charge you $50, $60, $75 to do something like that. And that's well worth it. If they feel like they are in danger or this person is really going to be a threat.
Did you say that again?
Oh,
Sorry.
Siri's talking to me. Siri, I'm not talking to you. Anyway, if the process server feels like they're being threatened, typically they will contact local law enforcement to accompany them to the site. All right, so those are some ways of handling the service piece of it. But first and foremost, get yourself safe. Now, if you're not living in the house, you're already living in separate, abodes, so to speak, and you think he's going to be violent, and let's say your son is going back and forth between the two homes right now, you want to have dad served, in most cases, while your son is with you or under your control, as far as, say you're doing a week on, week off kind of thing. I'm just making it up. Make sure it's during that time, because what you don't want if somebody has violent tendencies is for them to unnecessarily involve your son. And so if you can control that, that is one way of doing it. So that's what I heard. Did I hear anything else in that question? So it was, I'm afraid he's going to be violent. I think, and some of the other things that are kind of on the peripherals of this that are outside the violence, but really when we have violent actors, what most of that comes down to is a reaction to a lack of control. They no longer are controlling you. Things are coming unraveled, and that is typically what the response is. Yeah. Some of the things folks do when they are exhibiting an inappropriate response to loss of control is they will sometimes test out controlling you through other means. Financially is a big one. All right, so you may have been threatened, if you ever leave me, if you think you're going to file for divorce, this house will be mine, I will put you on the street, you won't have a penny to your name, I will make sure you're homeless, blah, 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 okay? It's aggravating because you're in the emotion of that, and let's face it, until you get outside to some professionals who were not living with this dysfunction, you'll tend to believe it. And we see that quite a bit. And I'm here to tell you, you need to challenge in this situation, challenge every single thing somebody like that says to you, and do not assume and just automatically believe that, because 99% of the time it is not true. It is not true. So in that case, you can also expect someone to potentially cut off all your credit cards. Right? So now you no longer have access to credit. Take your name off all the bank accounts. Raid the bank accounts and take all the money out of all of your accounts and hide it somewhere else. If you're both working, or he's the major breadwinner and significant amount of your income to pay the bills is being, auto deposited. Most of us have our paychecks auto deposited into a joint account with our spouses. He might stop that without telling you and leave you with all the bills. So there are some things you can do to protect yourself before filing the papers. And we can do another podcast on another show about the technicalities in California I can speak to on what happens when you file for divorce, but suffice it to say, there are automatic restraining orders. They're pre-printed on what's called the summons. When you file for divorce, it's one of the documents you have to file, that says if you're the person filing for divorce, the moment you file the paperwork, you are under those automatic financial restraining orders that talk about you can't hide money, you can't take large sums of money and spend them. You can't go buy that Mercedes, girlfriend, that you've always wanted because you can access the retirement and you're going to stick it to them. No. But there's some restrictions in place, and that comes into place on the person who is filing, and they're effective as of the time you file the paperwork. They're then enforced on the other party, or their other party is under. So here the husband would be under those orders when he is served with the papers. Obviously, he's not just magically under the orders when you file him and he doesn't know about it. That doesn't make any sense. So that's how it works here in California. So if you think that, and you should think, I would say assume, please do. You have to be smart, okay? That this person is going to really try to stick it to you financially. You must be smart. And go in and figure out what it's going to cost you to live if all the money got taken away from you for the next 3, 4, 5 months until you can get into court and ask the court for some orders, okay? And be very careful about it, but go in and take an appropriate amount of money out of the savings account if you have access to funds. Put it into another place for safekeeping, an account typically where that other person's name is not on the account. You're going to account for it. You're not going to hide it. In the financial disclosure work that comes, it's part of it, every divorce here in California, you have to make full financial disclosure. You have to fill out forms showing all the bank accounts that you had with your spouse, that you have separate from your spouse, all of it. And the last 4 digits of the account number, all of this. So I'm getting into some of the minutia. But my point is, this isn't about being sneaky and hiding money. It's about preserving assets. Okay? Big difference. And you have to be able to feed yourself and feed your children while this thing's going on. So when we come with threats of violence, or we're considering, we're afraid of violence, we also must consider what are the other ways that he's going to try to control you. And financial is a huge, huge area. Do not ignore it. And the last thing I want to say on this, I'm sorry, I have a lot to say on this, but
yeah.
As women in particular, we have been taught to not upset the apple cart, and for the love of God, please, this idea of giving somebody the benefit of the doubt, what is that all about? Now, this isn't about being an ugly, rude, mean person. But in my book, I'm not going to just give somebody the benefit of the doubt, which I don't even know really what that means. I'm just going to trust somebody blindly unless and until they've earned my trust. I'm going to choose not to ascribe ill motives to somebody, that I've just met or whatever, but especially when you've got somebody who has a track record. Believe the track record. So don't give him the benefit of the doubt if he's got a track record of being threatening and controlling and sneaky and violent and punishing and punitive and not doing the right thing. Don't give him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to your finances. Because there is nothing worse than having to try to get into court, try to get legal representation with nothing to go leverage and get a good lawyer with, and to feed your babies and put gas in your car and keep a roof over your head and keep yourself presentable and go get medical care and therapy, all those things. So this benefit of the doubt thing, I'm sorry, I think it's for the birds. I really do. I think it's for the birds. So be wise, be a smart woman, and protect yourself and your children.
So if you have questions that you would like us, well, mainly Kelly, to answer.
Well, you can be,
but I can be a part of that as well.
Armchair pundit.
Sure, absolutely. But no, seriously, if you have questions you'd like us to answer, absolutely send us a direct message either on Instagram at Kelly Bennett _ I'm sorry, no, it's ESQ, just no underscore.
No underscore.
So it's Kelly Bennett ESQ, and also on Facebook at Kelly Bennett ESQ. And send us your questions, and we'll read them. We'll listen to them if you leave a message. If you'd like to call and leave a voicemail message, we'll play it out loud on the episode, and we'll answer the question.
Yep.
And the number, I'll put it right here, and you can see that phone number. And it'll only go to voicemail. No one's going to answer that phone, so don't expect someone to answer it. But feel free to leave it there, and we'll answer it live on the podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll wrap it for this time. With my legal hat is officially off. And anything else?
That's it.
All right. So, hey, Empire Builders, it's been a pleasure to serve you. And until next time, live with gusto and ignite your empire.